Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Our today's lecture is Elements of Effective Writing. The reference book that I'm going to use for this lecture is Technical Communication Principles and Practice, which is the third edition by Meenakshi Raman and Sangeeta Sharma. It's an excellent book, wonderful book for all the students who are struggling to understand the technical communication, and it lays down the principles and practices of technical communication in a very convincing manner. So it's a very useful book. Who am I? Here you can see my picture. I'm Dr. Amit Shaheen. I did my master's in English from Government College University Lahore, and I did my MPhil's in Applied Linguistics from Government College University Faisalabad, and whereas my PhD is in English Literature from Islamia University Bahawalpur. I have authored a book till now titled National Imagination and Diasporic Identities in Pakistani Anglophone 9/11 Fiction. This book was published in 2020 by Misal Publishers from Faisalabad City. I'm currently working as Assistant Professor of English Literature in the Department of English Literature, Government College University, Faisalabad. This is the cover jacket picture that is of my book, National Imagination and Diasporic Identities in Pakistani Anglophone 9/11 Fiction. This book is also published independently through Amazon, which is the world's largest online store. So this book is also available across the globe in the international market in its paperback as well as the digital content Kindle format edition. Objectives. These slides that I'm going to show you and I'm going to talk about them actually intend to make you know a certain things. Those certain things are that how to use right words in the right context, ways to achieve clarity and economy in writing, the various sentence patterns, the salient points of sentence construction, how to write effectively for the web. These are some of the elements that I'll be discussing through these slides. These are the objectives that I'll be achieving through this lecture to make you have a know-how about these things, these concepts in the coming slides. Introduction. Effective writing is an essential skill for any profession, be it technical or business. The purpose of writing any professional document is to communicate specific ideas, and everything about the document should contribute to this goal. Writing is a skill that can be learned and practiced, but to improve our writing skills, we need to be aware of the elements of effective writing. Choosing the right words and phrases, constructing grammatical as well as logically correct sentences, and well developed and coherent paragraphs all would contribute to enhancing the quality of writing. In these slides, we will look into the elements that contribute to the effectiveness of writing. However, before I move onwards with the next slide, it is important for us to know that what is meant when we say that writing is a skill. Skill, as you all know, that it is actually a point in exercise of a certain thing that occurs in one's life when one has achieved the pinnacle of that work. So, be it any work, it needs skill. Likewise, language is also a skill, and its use is also a skill. So you know that if a carpenter is working, he will only be able to, work with the wood, the raw wood, to shape it into different forms only when he has that skill of using different tools on the wood and come out with the perfect shape that he wants to have in his mind. physically present. So, how does he achieve that skill of chiseling out that very object that he has in his mind, being a carpenter, and is able to carve it out in a proper manner? Is because of his skill, and that comes only with practice. So, the more he works with his tools, the more he is better at using them. Likewise, any language, whether it be Urdu, Saraiki, Punjabi, English, all of them, when at the hands of the learners, they need to have a lot of hard work to put in that will actually expose the learner to that particular language and will by and by gradually improving the skill of that learner. So we being the students of language, English language, in its usage, be it spoken or written, here we are concerned more with the written one. So therefore, written language, uh, English writing is a skill, and we need to learn that skill, and we need to practice that skill to improve it and to come out with a better shape of words that we may use. We may have a lot of vocabulary to utilize upon. We may have you know. The other thing that we need to know is logically correct sentences. What do we mean by logically correct sentences? Logic is a word that actually pertains to the systematic movement, of be it a discourse, be it any writing material. If it is logical, it will be moving systematically from one point to another point. That is, that if you are talking or if you're writing, your both your speech as well as your written uh, you know your writing should be logical. That it shall it shall step by step, it shall move step by step onwards. That is, things should not be muddled together. Rather, our talk, if we are speaking, it shall by one move forward and make things clearer to the listeners. Or if it is a writing, it shall also move logically, that it shall base on the cause and effect, that it happened because it was in the background. So you see that there is a cause and effect always, and if that cause and effect is maintained in our writing style, then we can bring in this element of being logically correct in our sentences. Coherence is also, once again, paragraphs should be also put in a specific order, that an idea shall be succeeded by another idea in a very logical manner, that there should not be the jumbling of various kinds of paragraphs. In an essay, if we are writing an essay or any other form of writing, there should be paragraphs that must be coherent, that the second paragraph must be in coherence with the previous one, and the third paragraph must be in coherence with the second one. So you see there is a maintenance of logic in between the paragraphs as well. So logic, not only we have to observe this in case of sentences, making sentences, but we have to prolong this practice of bringing in logic in our discourse, in our writing style, in our speaking style, through the proper order of our paragraphs as well. Right words and phrases. Using the right words in the right context is one of the essential elements of effective writing. The following guidelines will help achieve clarity and economy in writing. What are those things? What are those guidelines? These are: prefer simple, familiar words to obscure and unfamiliar words. You see, here it is very clear that we have to use simple words. We have to use familiar words. We do not have to use obscure words, or the words that are not used more commonly, or the words which we can which we may think that they might be unfamiliar for our readers or our listeners. So taking in view, your reader will actually give you an idea that what kind of words you are going to prefer for your usage. So This is an important point for us. Uh, Prefer concrete and specific words to abstract and general words. We have to be specific because usually our writing is specific too. It is, if we are engineers, then we are supposed to speak or write a specific kind of language. If we are doctors, then we are supposed to speak or write definitely a language that is in usage of doctors. Uh, so you see, every profession has uh, its own diction, and we have to use that diction while we are speaking or writing for any kind of audience. Use acronyms carefully. Avoid cliches. That is, we have to, if we are going to use acronyms, we will be further having the detail of it. We should not use, we should be very much careful about its usage. And cliches, that is those words that are very common, we have to avoid them. Avoid excessive use of jargon, that is a very hi-fi words that are used particularly in any field of study, like they should also not be used. uh, Although we are writing from the perspective of our audience, but once again, we do not have to put our audience into worry by using jargonistic, very verbose, weighty words. Avoid foreign words and phrases. uh, if you are writing English, then you should utilize English words and try to avoid the French or Latin phrases because they might not be easy for your readers. They can be, such sort of techniques are used for literary or flowery kind of language, but not for the professional speakers or those who belong to some certain profession. And for professional kind of writing, we do not have to use such words which are from Latinized or say French or say German. We have to avoid. We have to completely write in that very language. Avoid redundancy and circumlocution. We do not have to use those words which are no longer used. They should not be redundant. Avoid discriminatory writing, and we shall not bring in the element of gender discrimination in our writing. We should use neutral words. We should use those words which do not betray the gender and might be leading us towards the negative connotations for our readers. So, in the following slides, we will delve deeper into these guidelines, explaining their effectiveness through examples. I have briefly talked about these things now here in this slide, and onwards in the slides to come, I'm going to talk about these things in detail. Use familiar words. An important element in the use of words is the selection of familiar words, words that are commonly used in daily language. To do this, one must rely on one's judgment to decide which words are more familiar. For example, use the word destroy instead of using the word annihilate. Use verify instead of using corroborate. And use outdated instead of antiquated. Now, you can see that I have given you three examples here, three sets of examples of simple as well as unfamiliar words. Here, destroy is the word which is a common one, we know what it means, but annihilate also means the same thing. However, in our daily use, we do not come across people or we do not read more oftenly the word annihilate. Therefore, we can say that it is a rare usage, not as common as the word destroy is. So it is better when we say that to maintain our writing style, our writing appropriate and more effective, we need to use familiar words. Then we have to take care in using such words like destroy, and we should not use the other option, that is annihilate, because annihilate will be, it is probable that some of your readers will find this word difficult to understand. Likewise, verify is a common word used more in offices these days. But corroborate, although it means the same, but is not in the fashion. So, and likewise, outdated is preferable on antiquated. Although they mean the same. Yes, if you are writing on a very advanced level and you're writing a novel, say, or you're writing poetry, or you're writing academic writing for you know very learned audience, say your doctoral thesis or things like that, or your books, critical books, then you may use then sometimes authors try to bring in this element of you know, verbosity in their usage. But once again, it has always been a principle with all kinds of great writers that they use simple words because uh, writing must be, uh, easy to read. If it is difficult to read, then it certainly is going to put the readers off, and you know, uh, uh, it's not always that you find your readers who are always looking forward to some difficult piece of writing and they may enjoy it until they are philosophers. So the language of philosophy, although it is usually believed that it is the difficult language, but once again it still is very easy because it follows the cause and effect and logical syllogistic style of writing, therefore, and we are not used to it in our common daily discourse, therefore we consider it to be a difficult one, whereas if we look at it deeply, we come to know that the language of philosophy even is easier, right? So we do not have to use unfamiliar words in our to make our writing easy and understandable and accessible. Use concrete and specific words. Concrete words stand for things that exist in the real world, such as chair, desk, automobile, flowers, the Taj Mahal, and so on. Abstract words, on the other hand, cover broad meanings, concepts, ideas, and feelings. Concrete and specific words are always preferable to abstract words. Concrete words permit a limited interpretation and convey a more definite meaning. They tend to be forceful, direct, and to the point, while abstract words tend to be general and vague and digress from the point. So it is very much clear in this slide, as I was reading it out to you, that we have to use concrete words if we do not want our readers to be confused. If we are going to talk about concepts and ideas or feelings, and we are because they might be demanding us to utilize abstract words in our writing, but we'll be making our style difficult and we'll be putting our readers to difficulty. I'm not saying that we shall not write about concept and ideas and feelings. Even if we have to write about them, still we can find the concrete words for them, right? And we have to be in order to be forceful and direct and to the point, it is preferable that we choose the words that are direct, that are forceful, and that are to the point. And that how can we achieve? That we can achieve through using the concrete words. Good business communication is marked by words that have clear meanings. Instead of saying the company suffered a tremendous loss in the second quarter of last year, it would make more sense to directly say the company suffered a 70% loss in profits in the second quarter of last year. Quantifying the loss in the above example makes the information more useful and creates a better impact. Otherwise, it hardly conveys much meaning. It is essential to convey the message in clear terms. Ambiguity results in reduced or no communication. Give special emphasis to sentence structure and construction in order to avoid ambiguity. So you see, I have given you an example in this slide. It is very much obvious that the first sentence, the company suffered a tremendous loss in the second quarter of last year, is here we have a very concrete kind of number. The company suffered a 70% loss in profits. So we have clarified that the tremendous loss, what was the tremendous loss? The tremendous loss was actually 70 70% of the loss, which is out of 100%, 70% is a very large portion. You see, so the word tremendous loss, tremendous sounds good. The word itself sounds good, but but it doesn't tell us that what is the severity of the loss. Whereas by 70%, anybody can understand that 70% is a bigger half, is a bigger part of 100%. So it is of course it is a very big loss. So that is how we can bring in the concreteness in the usage of our words. Use acronyms and abbreviations sparingly. That is, try not to use acronyms and abbreviations. That is preferable. And if it is necessary for you, and there is no other way out, so then one must use acronyms and abbreviations in one's writing. Otherwise, sparingly means that try to avoid the usage of acronyms and abbreviations, because most of the times our readers are not ready. They are not, prepared to check out for the acronyms. They want to have a flow of in the reading material. If the reading material is not having certain flow, because it is using a lot many acronyms and abbreviations, and most of the times all your readers are not known to those acronyms and abbreviations, so they have to go and check it out in the dictionary that okay, what does this acronym or abbreviation stand for. So in a way, if they have to leave the reading material and go search out for the acronyms in their full and abbreviations in their full, then definitely they are going to lose their attention, their span of attention, which we all know that reading demands a lot of span of attention. It needs a lot of attention. Otherwise, many of the times it happens that we are unable to build our, uh, confidence in the reading, and we are, since we are not familiar with the words they are coming our way, we have to leave our reading halfway. So it is better that being a writer, if we want our readers to be glued with us, and if we want our readers to stick to our writing, then we have to take care in using acronyms and abbreviations. If we have to use them necessarily, then we must use them, otherwise we must use them sparingly. So an acronym is a word formed by combining the first letters of the words that make up the name of something. For example, WHO is the acronym for World Health Organization. We are all familiar with the common acronyms FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, PAF, Pakistan Air Force, and IBM, Institute of Business Management. These are the While working in a particular field, we learn the related technical terms and acronyms. In due course, we use these terms and acronyms freely in communicating with people in the same area of work. While acronyms help achieve brevity and are necessary in technical documents, excessive dependence on them leads to a loss of clarity. So we do not have to use excessively. Even if we have to use these acronyms and abbreviations in our writing, then it is preferable that you give a list of acronyms and abbreviations in the start of your writing. Usually, we have this kind of thing happening in the manuals that we get with any item that we purchase, technical item that we purchase for our use. Abbreviations, on the other hand, are short form of words such as ST for saint, AV for average, etc. The rules of using abbreviations are also similar to those for using acronyms. Some of the specific usages to avoid are as follows. Do not use phonic abbreviations like U for you and THO for though. In formal or semi-formal writing, it creates the impression that the writer is not serious in his or her work. This sort of writing intervention, has occurred due to our reliance on gadgets actually. Now we are living in 21st century, and we have a lot many gadgets in the market, and we use them, and we speak through them or we write through them to each other. The SMS language uses this kind of you that I have given you an example of, or the though. So well, it this kind of writing suits that SMS writing or WhatsApp writing. But when you are writing something serious, there you have to avoid such kind of abbreviations totally. Abbreviations for English units of measurements use periods, DOS, OZ, FT, IN, PT, YD, but abbreviations for metric units of measurements do not, GM, CM, KM, MB. Though this rule varies as a matter of style, abbreviations that include the last letter of the word being shortened should not take a period. For example, DR, Doctor, MR, Mr., but Professor, these are the words that use dot or do not use the dot. So do not abbreviate words at the beginning of sentences. Do not abbreviate proper nouns as well. These are the things that you have to take care of while writing. Avoid cliches. Here we are going to deal a bit in detail regarding the use of cliches. Cliches are overused words and phrases that have lost their appeal. Nobody likes to hear stale, once fashionable phrases that add little or no meaning to what we say. Some well known cliches include food for thought, teeming millions, lost but not the least, fishing in troubled waters, and to burn the midnight oil. An indiscriminate use of cliches An indiscriminate use of cliches makes technical communication unimpressive and stale. However, there may be instances where a cliché conveys the idea so effectively that it becomes extremely difficult to improve upon it or think of a substitute. Hence, it is completely the writer's judgment on how often to use clichés and then to avoid them. So you see, these sort of clichés you might have. These are the phrases that you might have heard more oftenly, or you might have come across reading more oftenly. But you know that these kinds of cliches are used for literary kind of writing, not for the technical sort of writing. The technical writing has to be clear, upfront, to the point, condensed, right? So that the person who has to utilize that information, technical information, suppose if it is a manual and you are talking about the use of a gadget, particular gadget, and it's manual. You are right. You have to write being if you are an engineer and you are writing a manual of a mobile, or you are writing a manual of a washing machine, or you are writing a manual for the use of a glucometer. So you see, these are the technical things, and they are used technically to make your reader understand the proper functioning of that particular gadget, which is technical one. You have to rely on completely on a language that supports your technology. It shall be simple, it shall be to the point, it shall not be using jargons, it shall not be using verbosity, it shall not be using unfamiliar words. It is very important for us to understand this thing, because the purpose of technical writing is by far uh, not to confuse the reader, rather to help the reader in understanding the manual so that the reader is able to use the gadget, right? So we have to avoid cliches, avoid excessive use of jargons. Jargons are defined as words or expressions that are used by a particular profession or group of people and are difficult for others outside this group to understand. Every profession has its specific jargon. Doctors communicate with each other in medical terms that are seldom understood by the layperson. Similarly, software professionals resort to the use of computer related jargon. The use of jargon is acceptable as long as the communication takes place among individuals belonging to the same field or profession. However, to sustain the interest of a large readership, it is necessary to minimize or avoid the use of jargon. Since the reader may not be a specialist in the subject, the content has to be simplified to the extent possible when presenting it to a non technical audience. And this requires the use of non technical and easy words and descriptions. Like, I go back to my example of using the manuals. If I'm using a manual of a gadget to understand the working of that gadget, and I being a layman does not have to have a language that is jargonistic based, that usually the engineers speak with one another or the doctors speak with one another. Let's say it's about the use of a glucometer. So you see, the jargonistic language, when it comes to the common reader, uh, be it a use of a gadget and through the reading of a manual about it, uh, it is important for for the writer of that manual that he or she avoids using any particular technical jargons that are very much common in his field, but when it comes to general readership, it becomes a problem. So we have to avoid jargons in our writing. Avoid redundancy and circumlocution. We need to avoid the use of unnecessary words or resort to needless repetition of an idea. This makes the writing redundant. Redundancy is the part of a message that can be eliminated without loss of much information. Re-emphasizing the same point through the usage of extra words does not confer any extra words to the idea. Once unnecessary words are pruned, the idea stands out clearly and effectively. So it is a basic thing to understand for a technical writer who is writing about a technical thing, that it is not necessary to repeat the information again and again, because within the economy of the words, you have to convince your reader, you have to make sure that your reader understands whatever you want him to draw home, whatever you want him to understand. So, to make your reader understand, you have to avoid the elements of redundancy and circumlocution, that is, by repeating needlessly the idea that you have already expressed earlier. So, talking about gadgets once again, that is, you do not have to use jargons and you do not have to keep using them again and again. It will be putting your readers to difficulty. Avoid discriminatory writing. Whatever case of writing that might be, whether it is academic writing, whether it is literary writing, whether it is technical writing, whatever form of writing that is, nowadays it is understood by all sort of writers that they do not have to use the discriminatory language. Discriminatory language in 21st century has become redundant itself. It has become like a cliche, like it has become something ancient. Now everybody knows that we are living in a world that is equal, that gives equal prestige to men and women. And rather, we have started talking about the rights of LGBT, LG, lesbians and gays and transvestites and uh, you know the people that were considered to be the at the lowest rung of the human society. So human society has by far, now it has evolved itself to that equality among the human beings, that it is not preferable for us now in this world to use sexist language, to use gendered language, to use discriminatory language. So in order to make your writing non-discriminatory, it is preferable for you not to use discriminatory words. So, since language developed in a male-dominated society, here I'm going to read out this slide to you. Since language developed in a male-dominated society, it is common to find words such as man-made, manpower, chairman, fireman, manhole, batsman, layman, and so on. These can be made non-discriminatory by using non-sexist nouns such as of human origin, personnel, workers, chairperson, firefighter, layperson, and so on. Words that stereotype by race, nationality, or sexual orientation must also be avoided. Such statements can severely damage the writer's image and lead to major controversies and embarrassments. Also, it is no longer acceptable to use words that stereotype by age or typecast people with disabilities. Terms such as deaf and dumb, mentally retarded, and handicapped sound highly insensitive. Gentler and more humane words such as physically challenged or mentally challenged convey the same meaning but with a greater degree of sensitivity. Now you see that We now in the 21st century have understood the rules of writing because we do not have we have progressed so much in our human understanding that now we understand that all the human beings are equal, whether they be uh, belonging to any race, any nation, any community. We have to give respect to them. And gender discriminatory writing is the first thing that we have to avoid while using language. Sentences. Expressing ideas in skillfully written sentences contributes considerably to the success of writing as a whole. The ability to construct effective sentences adds value to technical documents such as emails, letters, memos, reports, proposals, etc. On the other hand, if sentences are ineffective, choppy, loose, ambiguous, and awkward, they fail to create the impact one intends to make on the readers. Hence, it is necessary to learn to write effective sentences in order to construct technical or formal messages. Here we are going to understand about the sentence patterns. Based on the way in which the clauses are combined, sentences are classified as simple, complex, compound, and compound complex sentences. A simple sentence contains only one clause, the main clause. A compound complex sentence or mixed sentence is made up of two complex sentences joined by the coordinating conjunction and, as shown in the following example. So you see that we have to, in order to, we have to write simple sentences as previously I was telling you that we have to use familiar words from word level to onward on sentence level. We have moved onwards to understand that if we have to make sentences, we have to make simple sentences with one, uh, you know, uh, which may have only one clause, not more than one or two clauses, because the more clauses you put, clause is actually the portion of a sentence which is complete in itself and gives its full meanings. So, a, so a sentence can be complete with one clause or a couple of clauses, or at times, you can keep on adding the clauses as to make simple, complex, compound, and compound complex sentences. But being the beginners and learners of technical writing, we should start with the simple sentences, because the more clauses you will try to introduce, the more complex your structure will become, and you may lose your logic within the sentence, or you may uh, make your sentences cluttered and and ambiguous for your readers. So here is an example. Despite the fact that writing technical documents takes time, Mr. Kamal enjoyed such writing assignments, and I used to appreciate the enthusiasm that he had exhibited in preparing his technical documents. So it's a long sentence, and by the end of it, it is possible that your reader has lost his interest. Make short sentences. So, simplicity in writing can be achieved mainly by writing short sentences. Shorter sentences convey meaning better than longer ones. If too many ideas are stuffed into a sentence through words, the meaning is lost and the reader is left confused. Therefore, one should attempt to limit the amount of information in each sentence. Preferring shorter sentences does not mean that long sentences are to be completely avoided. When long sentences are required to convey a complex message, construct them meticulously so that clarity is achieved. So, uh, number one thing is to make short sentences, and if it is necessary and your ideas are complex that you want to write about, then you may uh, add on sentences and reach out the level of complexity in them as well. Long versus short examples. Here I have short sentences. Here I have some examples. Long and breathless sentences, like here we have two examples. Then we will have that how we can shorten them, and we will be having an idea. We might further mention that we would be we might further mention that we would be glad to furnish any of these vessels on a trial basis to the extent that if the smaller size is not adequate enough, it could be returned in lieu of the purchases of a large size depending upon actual operation and suitability of requirement for signal, distance and audibility. It's a long sentence, it's a complex sentence, it is having a lot many ideas, but however, we can make it a short and clear sentence too. Like here we have an example of it. We would gladly provide any of these whistles for trial. In addition, we would replace the smaller size whistles with the longer ones if you feel that they may help you hear your signals more clearly at a specific distance. So you see that this sentence is comparatively shorter to the previous one. Another example is given here. We can see from the above list that though the average number of customers per day is small, the turnover is maximum because at other restaurants the main items of sale are tea, coffee, and snacks, whereas at this restaurant meals are also available. So this sentence is shortened like here. The above list shows that this restaurant has the maximum turnover through the average number of customers per day is small. This is because besides tea, coffee, and snacks, it sells meals also. Uh, these examples can tell us that how a complex sentence can be changed into a short, easy sentence. So break the sentence. In order to bring in the simplicity in your sentences, you have to break the sentences. Long and circuitous sentences are difficult to understand, while the shorter ones convey a message more easily. Shorter sentences, in fact, are more precise in expression. However, using too many short sentences also makes the writing appear jerky and irritating. It will also give an impression of elementary writing, such as writing for children. It is therefore a writer's job to bring in the right mix of simple and complex sentences. So, what is important for us is to bring in the right mix of simple and complex sentences. At times we use simple sentences, and at times we bring in a little, a little bit advanced sentences with more complexity, with more clauses, in that sentence. So it is completely a choice of the writer. So, being a technical writer, it is preferable that you start with simple sentences and you bring in the uh, uh, complex sentences also. So, look at the following sentences. The original sentence is the tinder must be the tinder must be some soft inflammable material. This may be dry grass, leaves, or wood shavings. So the revised is the tinder must be some soft, inflammable material such as dry grass, leaves, or wood shavings. So we have two sentences into one sentence. The original version sounds choppy and disjointed, whereas in the revised sentence, the sequence of thought is smoothly linked, whereas it is a complex sentence as well. So you see, that's how you can sometimes break the sentences, or sometimes you can, make two sentences into one sentence. Things to avoid: avoid cluttering phrases, avoid pleonasm or redundant phrases, avoid circuitous expressions, avoid needless repetition, avoid ambiguous sentences, avoid use of passive voice, avoid improper ordering and emphasis of words. Writing for the web. Nowadays we use internet and we have to write for the web pages. So what kind of writing we need to have for the web pages? With the phenomenal increase in the use of smartphones, tablets, Kindle, etc., online readership has been witnessing a tremendous growth. Online readership includes various social networks, wikis, blogs, websites, etc. Though print material is widely used by all of us, for academic and professional purposes, time is not far when online media will take over print media. Hence, it has become important for us to know not only the various types of online writing but also the style in which we need to formulate the web content. So, the prerequisites for web writing are clarity of purpose, audience awareness, planning content, effective style of writing, formatting, proofreading, and we'll be knowing these things in details. Clarity of purpose. When we think of creating content for the web, we need to ask ourselves the following questions so that we are clear with our purpose. What are we achieving by publishing this content? What information should we include in this? Does my objective understand the reader's needs? Have I read the other web contents on the same topic before I set my objectives? Have I published the same topic on any other web forum? And if so, how does this content differ from the earlier ones? Does my content have a single purpose or multiple purpose? If it has many purposes, which one is the best important ones? And audience awareness is very important so that we write properly for them. Readers read our web content with specific task in mind. If somebody is coming to your web page, he knows that what he's going to find there. For instance, when we like to know about a job profile in knowledge management area, we surf the web specifically for that content. Similarly, readers go to the web with a specific demand. Hence, it is important to understand their needs. In fact, being aware of the recent trends in job market, industries, sectors such as academia and industry, etc., would enable us to understand the reader's requirements to get increased readership for our web content. It is not only important to write what we know about, but also what our readers want. Planning content. Keeping in mind our purpose, audience demands, and the timeline, we need to plan our content. Also, we should think of sustaining the interest of our readers for a long term. In other words, the content should involve not only the present status but also its future implications. For example, if the content presents the topic innovative pedagogies for university education, it should include the latest pedagogical pursuits as well as the future pedagogies that would depend primarily on technological aids. Extensive research is important during the planning phase, and we should try to identify the sources from which we can collect information for developing our content. We can refer to books, journals, magazines, online resources, etc., so as to keep ourselves updated about the content. Effective style of writing. Though the fundamentals of effective writing may be same for print and online writing, the latter differs in certain aspects. For example, we should use first person and second person rather than using third person. We should get to the important point right away without spending too many words on the introduction, because if the readers do not find the required information soon, they would go for some other site. They will leave your website. They will leave your web page. We should be friendly in our tone and speak directly using active voice. Formatting. Our web content should be easily readable and scannable, and in order to achieve these, we can follow the following top tips. Use appropriate font type, size, and color. Use bold or italics type to catch the important points of the content. Use catchy headings and subheadings that reflect the content under each. Provide easy navigations for any links or other sources, etc. It is better to connect the links to the appropriate words in the content rather than using the words click here. Bullets list may be helpful in grabbing the attention. Use videos, photos, and other multimedia aids for enriching the text. So, the more these things you provide on your web page, the more attractive it will be for your readers. Proofreading. Our web content should be free from typos. It should not have typographical mistakes, incorrect spellings, and grammatical errors. Such lapses would put the readers off and keep them away from using any of our web writing. Just as we proofread our print content, we should proofread carefully the web content too. Carefully edited, revised, and proofread content would have better chances of getting more readership. So, the summary of whatever we have discussed till now, everything. Effective writing is essential in every profession. This can be achieved by maintaining clarity and brevity in writing. Words being in smallest unit in writing, Words being the smallest unit in writing play a crucial role in effective communication of a message. Clarity can be achieved by using simple and familiar terms, concrete and specific words, by using acronyms carefully and by avoiding cliches, jargons, and foreign words. Effective and good writing has to be able to reach out to a large audience. This requires the writer to maintain an impersonal and indiscriminatory tone while being genuine. Although it is essential to retain the correct order of words to achieve the desired emphasis as well as grammatical accuracy, variety can be added to the writing by altering the sentence types effectively. Although it is essential to retain the correct order of words to achieve the desired emphasis as well as grammatical accuracy, variety can be added to the writing by altering the sentence types effectively. Other key factors to be remembered by a writer are a correct mix of active and passive voices and avoiding ambiguity. Online media is gaining a lot of attention these days. Hence, we need to keep certain things in mind while writing for the web, such as clarity of purpose, audience, awareness, planning, etc. Thanks for your patience. So, this is all we had today in our lecture for elements of effective writing. I hope that this lecture is useful for all my students and you people are able to take some benefits out of it. Good luck with your lecture.